Finally, an answer to the question, whatever happened to Joe Piscopo? He's proving there is life after Saturday Night Live. He knows everybody, and he has an opinion on everything. He's here at AM970 The Answer. This is Piscopo in the morning.
I don't know where Joe Piscopo is this morning, but I'll tell you what, I know where Steve Adubato is. He's sitting in for Joe Piscopo, that's right. I'm proud to be here. Steve Adubato, AM970 The Answer with Frank Morano.
Good morning, Steve. Welcome.
Good to be here. Al Gattulo.
Good morning, Steve. Nice to see you.
Now, I know that the promo says, now we know where Joe Piscopo is. I think he's on a cruise.
Yeah, he should be approaching the Bermuda Triangle right about now.
What happens there?
You got me. You got me. It seems to be a big mystery.
So it's another 10 years we won't know where he is?
You got GPS on him? Is that what it is? You're tracking him? No. It's illegal, you know.
Well, I'm here today from 6 to 9. Steve Adubato, and I am thrilled to be here. It is great. I got the call from you guys, from Joe and you, and then I got the call from the big guy.
Jerry Crowley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the, the offer that you couldn't refuse.
Yeah, you have to genuflect when you say Jerry's name in the studio.
Yeah, I do it in Jersey, too, when I get the call. So I am proud to be here. Good to be here. The telephone number is 877-970-2999. And we'll be talking about all sorts of interesting things. We'll be talking about the fact that Mayor Al Sharpton is... Should I not have said that so soon? Is it too soon? Yeah. So Mayor Sharpton is working together with Mayor de Blasio, and they are deciding on who the number 2 guy is going to be in the police department. It is clear that now that, what's his name, Philip Banks was the guy. He was about to become the top guy under Police Chief Bratton, and then apparently did not get the authority that he wanted, Al. I'm a student of leadership. Did I tell you I was writing a book?
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry, this will be the first of about 14 plugs. I'm writing a book. What's the book called, Frank?
Lessons in Leadership.
Man, you're quick. A new book is called Lessons in Leadership, and one of the lessons is how you never give up your leadership, your authority, and my position is going to be, and I'd love to hear people calling at 877-970-2999. My position is very simple, that the mayor abdicated. I like using multisyllabic words from my old neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey. Wasn't always common. They were using monosyllabic words. No disrespect.
That's big, though. 4 syllables this early in the show for one word is big. I mean, you're going to tap that by 9 o'clock. You're going to have to come up with a 5-syllable word. That's
yeah,
gonna be
well,
big.
I had a $5 cup of coffee at Starbucks, so I'm good. So here's my position. I'll tell everybody right away. As a student of leadership, as a author of multiple books, 5 books this will be on leadership and communication, as someone who teaches at NYU and NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, I'll get that right, NJIT, teach on leadership and communication. I write about this stuff. I write a column on it and think about it all the time. I'm sitting there going, the mayor, who I have a lot of respect for, he's a good politician. He figured out how to get elected. But getting elected is not the same as being the chief executive, as you guys know. You cannot turn to Al Sharpton or anyone and say, listen, Rev, as they call him on MSNBC. Apparently my old friends at MSNBC seem to either not care about or forget about the Rev's history and his problems with the truth and credibility. What was the young lady's name?
Tawana Broly.
Yeah, forgot that for a second. That whole little thing. So,
and many others.
Yeah, the thing, Freddie's up in Harlem. Yeah, that little thing too. The Rev has no credibility in my book. But the mayor goes to the Rev, Al Sharpton, and says, listen, I need support in the black community. Come and help me out. And in the process, somehow, Reverend Al Sharpton, Al Gattulo, becomes, in my opinion, sort of like the co-mayor. And he has way too much authority, way too much say as to what goes on in the police department. And there he is at a press conference not too long ago. Al, tell me if I'm wrong, because you're the news guy around here. And he's sitting there shoulder to shoulder with Bratton, with Bill Bratton.
Right.
And wait a minute, I'm sitting there watching this going, hold on. Sharpton is scolding Bill Bratton in public, and de Blasio is not reminding Sharpton that Bill Bratton is the mayor's choice to be the police commissioner, and somehow in that moment publicly it's clear that the mayor has given up authority, in my opinion, abdicated responsibility for a big chunk of the mayorship in New York City to Al Sharpton. And now all of a sudden, Sharpton's got an awful lot to say about who is going to be replacing Philip Banks as to who is going to be the number 2 guy. But I'll tell you what, no problem, because according to Bill Bratton, he held a press conference and he said, don't worry, the minority community and Al Sharpton, the co-mayor, is going to like the next choice. Not because that person is going to have great qualifications, not because that person is going to be a great cop. Trust me, minority community, you're going to like him because, or her, it's going to be a minority choice.
You know, I find that so offensive, and I
what I said?
No. Well, you're quoting and paraphrasing of what the police commissioner said. But even on Saturday, there was such a push from several minority politicians, Tish James and others, the Anthony Miranda's group, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, that the number 2 person be, quote, a person of color.
Yeah.
Now, what would be so awful about not looking at the race of the person there and going out of your way to find the most qualified person in terms of policing, in terms of law enforcement administration, to be the number 2 person? Now, I recognize...
Bite your tongue, Frank Morano.
I'm not trying to take anything away from the role between police and community,
Sure.
that an all-white police department policing an all-black area plays into some alienation. But there's plenty of diversity in the police department. And to assign this deputy commissioner role, oh, that's going to be the, quote, person of color
That's right.
spot, I think it's racist, to be honest.
Yeah, well, to me, it is in fact racist to say that's the black position, that's the Hispanic position. As an Italian American, and someone said, you know, there are a lot of Italian Americans in that community. We need to put an Italian American there. I have a problem with it. Listen, I understand diversity, and I believe there's an important place for having diversity in one's administration. But there's a fine line in my book, and there's a great, great column on this from my good friend Michael Goodwin yesterday in the New York Post. You want to read a great piece on this? It's called Reverend Al Runs NYPD Now. Michael Goodwin in the New York Post yesterday, he nailed it. Basically said, affirmative action is a good thing, Al and Frank. Going after people, looking for diversity, but always focusing on talent, qualifications, good thing. Having people not of the community and going out of your way to make sure that you discriminate, obviously, is a horrible thing. Quotas? Making sure you have a certain number, picking the Hispanic person to make sure you have the Hispanic person, to make sure you have the black person, and now allegedly that the First Lady's upset, that Al Sharpton has a strong hand in this to make sure there's a black candidate. Disgraceful. Absolutely wrong. Because to me, no one is talking about qualifications. No one is talking about what is right in terms of fighting crime. That is, to me, racist. Because what it is saying is race trumps qualifications. My opinion is Al Sharpton or anyone who is in the position of Al Sharpton, an outsider outside the administration, if Al Sharpton wants to run the government, then appoint him to the administration. Appoint him to a post and get him off MSNBC and have him stop acting as if he's a journalist and start running something in administration.
That would be a true public service. Get him off MSNBC.
Listen, he has a right to be on MSNBC. I got MSNBC. I've got a lot of friends over there. It's a great network. Leans a certain way. That's fine. It doesn't hide what it is. But the fact is, you cannot be that person on the air and still have that much influence. By the way, I don't blame Sharpton. I blame the mayor. I blame the mayor for allowing an Al Sharpton to have that much influence. By the way, it could be someone who I disagreed with politically, agreed with politically, but no one should have that much authority. So in my book, Lessons in Leadership, the lesson's going to be never give up your authority and power for some short-term political gain with the black community, Hispanic community, Italian community, white community, Polish community, any community. Because when you do that and you give up your authority to someone who is a quote-unquote leader in that community, and then all of a sudden you think you're really the guy or the woman who's in control, you're no longer in control. You've given it up. That's just my opinion. The telephone number is 1-877. Do I need to give the 8, the 1?
Only if they're calling from a landline. If they are, then they need the 1. Mobile phones, they don't need the 1.
1-877-970-2999. 877-970-2999. Steve Adubato. I feel like I should introduce myself. You know?
Yeah. Go ahead.
My wife says you should do that because you act like what? Everybody knows who you are? We barely know who you are in this family.
More and more people do.
So I'm a broadcaster, primarily on television. My primary work is on PBS every night. I do a show called One on One, which Joe has been on several times. Every night on PBS stations in the New York, New Jersey market, every night at 7 p.m. on NJTV, the New Jersey Public Television Station. We took it over along with our partners at WNET a few years ago. It used to be called NJN, a government-run public television station. Now it is NJTV, a privately run station.
But is NJTV the Adubato incarnation of it? Is it always on, or is it just part of the day? How does it? I've never always been
being a
curious.
wise guy?
No, I'm serious. Because I'm interested in local news as much as anybody, but it's always been a little confusing to me exactly the
NJTV is a spin-off, a subsidiary of WNET, which is the PBS flagship, the largest and most significant PBS station in the country. WNET based here in New York City, where we're broadcasting. My good friend and colleague, Neil Shapiro, former president of NBC, stepped up. He's over at WNET, and he said, you know what? New Jersey should not be the only state in the nation without a PBS station. So when Governor Christie said we are going to end public subsidies to NJN 40 years later, some of us stepped up and said, let's create a public television station. NJTV was created. The production company that I run, a privately run, not-for-profit, stepped up, created programming for the station. I'm on every night, one-on-one, at 7 o'clock. Then again, one-on-one runs after Charlie Rose and Tavis Smiley. I'm on every night at 12:30 a.m. You guys can't be up that late because you are up.
Starting our day right around that.
Yeah, right, exactly. On every night at 12:30, and a bunch of other shows that I do on the network as well. And I also write columns for a whole bunch of publications. And my new book, before the one that comes out, the new one, my current book is called You Are the Brand. It's all about branding and trying to promote oneself in a hopefully way that's not gratuitous. Am I bordering on that, Al?
No, not at all. Actually, the question that some people will ask, though, is since you have such a vested interest in WNET, do you get advanced screenings of Downton Abbey because it's such a popular show? Everybody wants to hear about it.
I have asked.
The new season is already out in England.
It's a great question. I've asked several times about Downton Abbey, and I have been rebuffed.
Really?
Yes, because PBS integrity is what we believe in, and so there is no special treatment, which I'm disappointed in. And also, by the way, did you know I'm a former state representative in New Jersey?
Yes, I knew that.
Elected at the ripe young age at 25. I was the youngest legislator elected, youngest legislator to lose his seat at 27 years of age. Did you know that, too?
I did know that, actually, yeah.
Out! Loser!
Al and I actually almost have as much time in the New Jersey State Legislature as you do.
I get up at 4 in the morning. I travel in, get my $5 cup of Starbucks a few blocks away from the station.
Right.
Barely awake to be abused by Frank Morano.
Oh, that's not abuse.
Join the club.
Come on. That's
I'm gonna take
playful
more?
ribbing. Yeah.
Playful ribbing?
Yeah.
By the way, I barely found out where the bathroom was in the State House before I was out. I was out. Before I was out.
2 years it took you?
2 years.
To find the bathroom.
Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible.
Just when you thought you were in, they push you right out.
That was that. Yeah, I got swept out in 1985. It was the landslide of Tom Kean.
But you never ran again.
Never ran again. I was offered a run at the United States Congress the next year. The truth is, Tom Kean, without getting into a lot of detail, I was a Democrat at the time running in a rock rib Republican district, only Democrat elected in that district. And Tom Kean runs in the district. I knew I was in trouble, guys. Ready for this? I knew I'm in trouble because I'm running in the district. I win the first time because I'm running head-to-head against a long-term incumbent Republican bank president. I really like this guy, the guy that I beat 2 years before. He was old enough to be my grandfather at the time. Great guy, John Kelly, God rest his soul. And I beat the guy, and he runs again. He's going to run on Tom Kean's ticket. Now, Tom Kean was very popular at the time, and Kean is winning in a landslide. Now, he's at the top of the ticket. Long story short, my grandmother, Millie Adubato, right, alive at the time, says to me, are you going to be okay? She says, half Italian, half English. She tells me, I'm going to be voting for the governor. So she tells me she's voting Republican at the top of the ticket. She goes, but I'm going to try to find where you are. Meanwhile, I know what that means. That means people are going to go out in droves and vote for the governor, and I'm on the ticket, so they got to find me. I don't think she found me. I think she actually voted for my opponent because she went right down the line. So I lose the election by 1 percentage point, and I figured, you know what? This is a sign from above. And I don't mean from Jerry Crowley. I mean from really above, that it was the time at 27 to pursue a different life. Turned down that chance to run for Congress, and that was it.
I'm so disappointed, and I've actually urged you privately over the years and publicly to consider returning to elective office. And I'm not joking. I know you're smiling, but it's such a shame to me. Tomorrow's election day. And
is that tomorrow?
People complain, Steve, every year that they have to choose not from people they like, but from the best of the worst. And every year the choices seem to get worse and worse. And I think a big part of that is good people like you, talented people, knowledgeable people who understand how government works and this media government communication matrix. They choose not to step forward and run again and either get discouraged for a whole host of reasons. So I wish you would consider running again.
I appreciate you saying that, Frank. My ego loves that you say that, but here's the reality. Got 4 kids, 22-year-old, 10, 12, and a little baby, Olivia, who's 4. They are very greedy. They want things. They need things. And I love the private sector. I love the thrill of being out there in the marketplace, and I cannot nearly afford the pay cut. So I'm out there every day doing what I'm doing. But I love it, and that's why
Imagination is funny. It makes a cloudy day sunny. Makes a bee think of honey.
Nothing's better than that, guys. Nothing is better than that. Listening to Joe Piscopo do Frank Sinatra. Now that's funny that I said that. Come on. That is funny. I'm sorry, guys. All weekend listening to Seriously Sinatra when I'm not listening to Frank Morano on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, well, and you've called in on that program from time to time.
Why you act shocked?
No, because most people are asleep. Most right-thinking.
Yeah, I'm usually sleeping. He tells me, you got to listen this stuff. No,
it's great. I'm not saying this to say it. I mean, I work out. I go on my way to go play golf, except now there is no golf this time of year. And I listen to Frank, and it's good. But otherwise, I'm listening to Seriously Sinatra. And that's why I love when he played it. Thank you very much, Al. By the way, Steve Adubato here sitting in for the great. What's his name again?
Joe Piscopo.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I was building up to the big plug. I go, who am I here for? Yeah. I actually like that guy. I really, really like that guy. And I'm tired of defending him. So
he's terrific.
He actually really is.
Honestly.
He's just a good-hearted guy, big soul, and very talented. And part of his problem is he is so damn nice. Joe Piscopo and Steve Adubato here. The telephone number is 877-970-2999. 877-970-2999. I was blasting at 6 o'clock. I was blasting the mayor, Bill de Blasio, for giving up his power and authority to Al Sharpton, a man with very little credibility in my book, Tawana Brawley, and a whole bunch of other things that, I don't know, he never seemed to not only apologize for, but actually say, hey, yeah, I basically created havoc in the city back then, and the girl made it up. The story destroyed Stephen Pagonis' reputation, the assistant DA up there, and terrible situation. Yeah, forget about that. Now I want to be able to pick the number 2 person in the police department that Philip Banks has stepped down. Oh, don't worry, Al, you're going to like who I pick. Trust me, it'll be a minority candidate. Qualifications, maybe, but don't worry. Definitely be Hispanic or black, preferably black. You'll be happy. Crime, I think we'll be able to take care of that, but definitely a minority candidate. What is that? What is that? It's disrespectful to the black community, disrespectful to the Hispanic community, disrespectful to the people of the city of New York City. My opinion, you cannot, and as I said, I'm writing a book called Lessons in Leadership. First lesson of leadership. You never give up your authority to somebody else. You can't, because then who do we talk to when things go wrong? Reverend Al, I know you're the co-mayor. No, you're not. Nobody elected you. You've run before. Last time I checked, you haven't won an office. I know you're over at MSNBC. To my good friends over there, more power to you. You have them. City never elected them. Bill de Blasio, you're the mayor. Own it. Be the mayor. Take responsibility. Stop sucking up to Al Sharpton as if he's the co-mayor. So why don't we take a call now that I'm in a good mood? Can we go to Viviana? Oh, what a beautiful name. Viviana in beautiful Brooklyn. Hey, how's everything in Brooklyn, Viviana? Steve Adubato here.
It's going really well. Thank you for the compliment, and I'm glad to have you on the show today.
Do you even know who I am? Do you have any idea who I am?
I just heard all about you, and I'm looking forward to buying your lessons in leadership because I am in a leadership position, and I'd like to always get good advice and principles in leadership will give us some success, more success. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Great. And by the way, Viviana, that book will be out several months from now. But right now, my current book, again, the third plug, Al, my current book is called You Are the Brand. You Are the Brand, and it helps people brand and promote themselves no matter what their business is. But Viviana, you called AM970. Normally Joe is here every day. He'll be back next week. He's on a cruise to somewhere. He'll be back next week. But Viviana, you called, and that's why I want to listen to what you have to say.
Thank you so much. Well, there's a very little-known fact that Philip Banks was in position, proven leader, very well liked by the NYPD rank and file, to be the commissioner. And one of the things that I really am very, well, not disappointed is the wrong word. I believe that Mayor de Blasio is doing a disservice by allowing Al Sharpton and other people to allow them to manipulate him instead of him making good leadership decisions. If Phil Banks had been in the position he was really had worked himself up to take, we probably wouldn't have half of this racial problems that we've had since Mayor de Blasio became mayor.
Well, Viviana, here's my view. I'm sorry for interrupting. Here's my view. If Mayor de Blasio felt that Philip Banks should have been the number one person, the police commissioner of New York City, then he should have made that appointment. But if you're not going to make that appointment and you're going to ask Bill Bratton to step in and be the number one guy, then give him the authority. Do not allow Al Sharpton to sit shoulder to shoulder at a public press conference. Al, pick up that date. I think it was about 6 weeks, 2 months ago. Sit shoulder to shoulder, and Al Sharpton lectures Bill Bratton in public as to the broken windows theory, which we know is basically whether a window is broken or the squeegee guy is outside the Lincoln Tunnel every time I come into New York City, that you come down on those folks because the broken windows theory is if you don't fix that window quickly, there sends a message that the next crime will happen because the message is, a la Rudy Giuliani when this happened the first time around, Frank, that the message is that we're not serious about crime, and that Sharpton is lecturing Bill Bratton in public that the broken windows theory is wrong, and it sends the wrong message to the minority community. He is lecturing Bill Bratton in public. And Bill de Blasio sits there and allows that to happen in front of his number one guy. Now, if I'm Bill Bratton, I'm asking myself the question, why am I taking this? And am I not the head of the police department or not? It is the mayor who did that. And in my mind, he undercut and threw Bill Bratton under the bus.
Well, the other thing is probably that because Philip Banks was going to be under this administration, basically circus, he probably said, I don't want to do this. I want to get a better position somewhere else.
Well, is he not a loyal soldier or not? Listen, he's a cop. He's in a
He's a loyal soldier, but the thing is that right now either Bill Bratton is the commissioner.
He is.
And does his job, or the mayor is undercutting and undermining his leadership, and it's going to cause more problems. Could I say one other thing?
Sure, real quick. Go ahead.
To do with this?
Yeah.
I really invite New Yorkers to do an upset in New York State politics. I know that this is maybe a Hail Mary pass, but there is a good man that is running for governor, Rob Astorino, and we can boot out Cuomo if people will stop being aligned with a party. The Democratic Party sent letters to people telling them, you better vote or we're going to check on why you didn't vote.
Okay,
What is that?
So the message is you want people to vote for Rob Astorino.
Yeah.
Well, you're right about one thing. It is a Hail Mary pass. Governor Cuomo is running big in the polls, and we will see what happens. We'll talk a little bit about the election. Just, by the way, at 6:40, we'll be joined by my good friend Max Pizarro, who's the editor of a terrific website called PolitickerNJ.com. And PolitickerNJ is a great website. Well, it's about New Jersey. It's also about national politics as well. So, Viviana, I'm going to ask you to stay tuned and listen to that. And I very much appreciate you being the first call today. There'll be others who call in, and I promise Joe will be back next week. Thanks, Viviana. She's gone. Now, one of the worst things you could ever be accused of is talking about those old glory days. When you're in the New Jersey State Legislature. Oh, my God. I'm not going to do that. Steve Adubato here, sitting in for the great Joe Piscopo. I'll tell you what, Max Pizarro, my good friend, the editor-in-chief of Politicker NJ, does not want to hear about glory days, about people who used to play ball. Oh, I used to play in this softball league. I used to be in the New Jersey State Legislature. I used to be somebody. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear about what's going on in politics today. And that's why we have Max on. Max, how you doing, buddy?
Great, Steve. How are you? I think that's a perfect segue to the candidacy of Jeff Bell, who last ran in the glory days of 1978, just as Bill Bradley finished his New York Knicks playing career, Steve. So that is, in fact, an appropriate song for this segment.
Max, I got to tell you something. You're good on the segues, man. I was not
Thanks,
thinking.
man.
And by the way, I don't know if Bill Bradley, who was my idol growing up as a kid, number 24, Princeton, then with the Knicks. By the way, he was number 42, if you check this out. He was number 42 at Princeton, and then he was number 24 with the Knicks. And the great Bill Bradley would be running around with that weird-looking body without the ball, always looking for the ball, running, right? It was great.
Adubato, you're getting way too comfortable with these glory days, man.
Oh, sorry. I'll stop. Max, all right, I'll stop.
For Jeff Bell to be out there, but you're
I'll stop.
carried
I'll
away
stop.
here.
I'll stop. But all I'm saying is that Bradley doesn't talk about glory days. But how many years was Jeff Bell away from New Jersey in politics before he comes back and he says, "Hey, I want to run for the United States Senate in New Jersey against Cory Booker"? How many years?
So he was last active here. I talked to him, and by the way, he's a very personable gentleman. He's available readily by a cell phone, which is that virtue obviously is indicative of a deficit in the campaign apparatus. But he was certainly active in 1981 and even into the 80s as a very staunch ally of Ronald Reagan's. In fact, Mr. Bell is trying to implement many of the strategies he learned on the trail back then, Steve. He sees opportunities, for example, in the Latino community based on what Ronald Reagan did in the 1984 election when he won Hudson County. So that has been, he's tried to pivot somewhat away from the gold standard.
Well, good. Back up, Max. By the way, we're talking to Max Pizarro, editor-in-chief of Politicker NJ. Go on his website. Great website. Everything about politics you want to know. Steve Adubato here on AM970. Max makes reference to Jeff Bell, U.S. Senate candidate against Cory Booker. He talks about the gold standard. Actually, in an interview I did on PBS with him, he started talking about it. I was trying to understand it, Max. His thing is to return the U.S. economy to the gold standard, right?
Correct.
That's his issue?
He believes that the issue really is the economy. He sees us in a weak economic situation, and he believes that the zero interest rate policy of the Federal Reserve should be lifted in favor of allowing the market to set interest rates.
Do people care about this, Max?
I think that it's a tough sell, Steve. I really do. I think it's a tough sell, and I think that the polls reflect that. He's really struggled to raise money, and he's struggled to position himself against a very well-funded, well-connected incumbent, Cory Booker, who's running for his first 6-year term. He ran in a special election for the remaining year last year, and now he's going for a full 6 years. And, Steve, most polls show Booker running away with this double-digit lead over Mr. Bell.
Let me ask you this about Cory Booker. Cory Booker obviously filled in the remaining term of the late Frank Lautenberg, United States Senator, for many years in New Jersey. So Cory Booker, former mayor of Newark, he leaves the city of Newark, massive deficit, I believe $100 million deficit. The state has to come in and pick up the finances, deal with some of the financial issues in the city of Newark. Violent crime, murder rate up in the city of Newark. Cory Booker tweeting away, social media magnet, if you will, just very popular across this country. But the city of Newark, where I'm born and raised, as you well know, Max, love the city, but serious problems there. And some have said that Cory Booker left town and left a lot of those problems, but they do not seem to be hurting him politically because, Max Pizarro, you say?
I think that power is protecting itself in this state, Steve. I see last year's election with a weak Democratic challenger to power, Chris Christie, not gaining any traction. And this year is just a reverse with the powerful incumbent, Cory Booker, unable to really have to confront. He doesn't have to confront those issues because he has a very weak Republican challenger in this case. Chris Christie's attentions are focused nationally. He's looking to win in key gubernatorial contests, and so Booker is not being challenged in this election cycle. He is not having to force. He is not having to face his record. Bell is not well connected enough to force him to do that.
Let me ask you this. I'm asking our great producer, Frank Morano, to pull up the Chris Christie. Max, you know about everything that happens out there in the political marketplace. We're talking to Max Pizarro, the editor-in-chief of Politicker NJ. Go check out his website. Everything that you need to know about politics is right there. The analysis is there, all great stuff. Frank Morano was pulling up the soundbite. Governor Christie where was he, Max, the other day, where I believe a former councilman down at the Jersey Shore challenged him and said, quote, finish the job. Post-Sandy, it was the 2-year anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. Governor Christie was out there talking to residents and saying, listen, I know we have a lot of work to do, but, he was talking to folks. And the guy got up with a sign that said, finish the job, right? And right. Christie, you heard about that, right?
I did.
You want to hear the sound bite, and then I can get some response from you, okay, Max?
Of course, absolutely.
Frank, let's go with it, buddy.
So listen, you want to have the conversation later? I'm happy to have it, buddy. But until that time, sit down and shut up.
Max Pizarro, sit down and shut up. That is what the governor said to the gentleman who was holding up the sign and yelling at the governor to finish the job. Your reaction in terms of how the governor's reaction, which has been played all over the country all weekend, how does it play?
Well, Steve, this is a governor who's been very comfortable maneuvering through the politics of New Jersey, and he's been able to campaign around the country without a lot of backlash through the months leading up to the last couple of weeks, when the polls have actually showed finally this taking having a negative impact on his job approval in New Jersey. So he's always been able to go around the country, campaign in these other states, and then return to a place like the Jersey Shore and have a nice photo op. Well, this one didn't work out that way. So he got upset, and I think it reflects a governor who is not as firm-footed as he was even as recently as a month ago. I think that all the campaigning out of state, as he looks nationally, as he looks to establish himself for a presidential run in 2016, are having an impact at home.
But Max, devil's advocate, isn't it also fair to say that a lot of Chris Christie's appeal is the fact that he says what he wants to say, how he wants to say it, when he wants to say it, and as he says, he's doing it Jersey style. And if you were going to publicly come at him in an event, he is going to make it clear that he's not going to have it. I mean, isn't that part of his appeal?
There's no question, but the polling reflects that people have their doubts at this point. 43% job approval rating, Steve, and that's new. he's finally showing vulnerability. So when there are doubts surrounding an executive like this who's spending a lot of time out of state, and he comes back and he tries to do one of these quick-hit press conferences and he gets challenged, he doesn't appear to be in control, at least as he has been through all these years, which enabled him to be an overwhelming victory last year when he ran for re-election.
But real quick, you still think Christie's a viable candidate when he, in fact, announces after the new year, don't you? For president.
I think you can't rule out Chris Christie. He was schooled here in New Jersey. I think that he is a very formidable politician.
Real quick, tell everyone, Max, what they can find on Politicker NJ. What's there?
Steve, really, we just dive into New Jersey politics. We find it to be the most fascinating universe in the world. And we not only look at these elections that are occurring at the state level, but how they impact all of the county and local and even school board races. So you can find everything connected to New Jersey politics on Politicker NJ.
Finally, tomorrow, big day in your mind?
I think so, Steve, because, again, it might not be Booker versus Bell that gets the most interest, but how that impacts everything else. In other words, Republicans see Bell as a weak candidate, so they're shoring up with a lot of money to protect their candidates down ballot. Democrats see opportunities in places like Bergen and Burlington counties because Bell is a weak Republican challenger to Booker. So Booker may have coattails in those places where otherwise where Democrats wouldn't have opportunities.
Obama, toxic, isn't he?
Toxic, and that's really the war. It's Republicans are offsetting the weakness of Bell's candidacy by reminding voters about Obama, whose approval rating is 43% in this state. So that's what they're doing. They're saying, okay, Bell is a weak candidate, but look, Obama is on the ballot as well. If you want to vote for Booker and you want to vote for Democrats, you're voting for Barack Obama.
Max Pizarro, the editor-in-chief of Politicker NJ, the best political website you will find anywhere. Max, thanks for getting up, buddy. You're probably up anyway,
Steve,
but thanks for doing something
so
really
much
productive
for having
and being
me. I
with
really
us.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Steve, all the best.
You got it. Steve Adubato sitting in for the great Joe Piscopo on AM 970. Steve Adubato here. Al, what is that music?
That's Boston.
No, you do not play Boston while I am here.
Is that
I'm
right?
only here for this week a couple days.
All right.
By the way, I'll be back again Friday. You'll have some other talent here the other 3 days. Do not play Boston. No disrespect, but please.
No
you got so
Boston.
many options. You got Sinatra. You got Springsteen. You get playing
Tell me
Boston.
what you want.
First of all, I'm a Yankee fan. You're playing Boston.
It's a great band.
I know it is, but I get anything says Boston.
So if they change their name to New York, I can play them.
Exactly. Listen, I'm rooting against Tom Brady yesterday just because the Giants suck. Wait, can I say suck?
Sure.
Okay,
you
the
did.
Giants stink. The Jets stink.
Right.
I'm rooting against Tom Brady yesterday just because he's in New England. I want to have a reason to watch a football game. Anything connected to Boston. I love Boston as a
So
city.
no
'cause they've
Aerosmith.
Oh, Jesus, the Stevens Tyler. I just can't. Or the Joe Perry. I just can't.
All right.
It's a Boston thing, sorry.
Sorry.
They never won a World Series, did they?
They did.
How about
2004?
Took them a long time.
Oh, God. The curse of the Bambino's over. Steve Adubato here and for Joe Piscopo. Can we go to Mario in Brooklyn? Steve Adubato, Mario, how you doing?
Steve, how are you? Steve, I really think, and I'm going to lobby for you. I'm going to call up Joe Crowley. You need your
No, it's Jerry Crowley. Jerry
Joe
Crowley.
Crowley's a congressman.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You need your own show. You got a great.
I got my own show on PBS every night. Check me out.
Yeah, but radio is more important than TV. Because you drive around the But Steve, I just want to point a couple of things out to you about Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry. You done talking about me?
No, you want me to keep going?
No, go ahead. Say what you wanted to say.
I love that thing about your grandmother Millie voting Republican.
Yes, she did. That's why I lost the election. She's in heaven right now going, I did you a favor. But go ahead.
Chris Christie, you yourself, Steve, and I don't want to get into a shootout with you because I really like you. You had a flippant remark about a month ago when Christie was warned not to build that casino down the Lansing. They told him it was an overbuild. First of all,
The Revel. Yeah.
Revel. So you said flippantly, well, he threw $2 billion. He took a shot. Steve, the New Jersey budget is what, $60 billion, $58 billion?
No, it's 36 billion, but go ahead.
So that's 10% of the budget, Steve. We're on the hook for those bonds. That's $2 billion. million, my friend.
Point well
That's
taken,
just-
Mario. Mario brings up a good point. We'll talk about Atlantic City a little bit later on. Steve Adubato here, in for Joe Piscopo with Frank and Al and Debbie Duhame and the crew on AM970. The telephone number is 877-970-2999. My wife Jennifer is up right now getting ready to get our kids, our three beautiful kids, out to school. I'm sure she'll be raising her voice in just a few seconds at them because they're not doing the right thing. But my man Al is going to tell us what's going on in the news, not my family, but in the world.